Well, welcome everyone. Warm welcome to you. If you're joining us today, this is our AI-powered productivity, a beginner's guide to Atlassian Intelligence in the Cloud webinar produced by Valiantys. And just wanted to start off with a couple of introductions. I'll start off with introducing myself. Hello, my name is Sam Ayers. I'm an engagement director here at Valiantys. And so great to be with you guys today. And I'll pitch it over to Joshua, who's going to introduce himself as well.
Yeah, I'm Joshua Dimitri. I'm a principal solutions architect at Valiantys. My background is all in software development, and these days I spend time talking with our clients to kind of build out their cloud platforms and kind of transform into a cloud-ready business.
Awesome. Thank you, Joshua. All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump in here just for the sake of time, because I want to leave plenty of time for questions at the end. I just wanted to provide some information about Valiantys just to give you a sense of who we are and what we do if you're not familiar with us. And so to put it hopefully succinctly, we've worked directly with and or partnered with Atlassian for over 17 years now. And our partnership with Atlassian has resulted in being awarded the Atlassian Partner of the Year award 13 times. And really all that is to say is that we've just worked very, very closely with Atlassian. We're very well acquainted with the ecosystem and have built a relationship built on trust and over the years. We are Atlassian's first global partner, truly spanning the globe at this point. We are a global Atlassian partner with representation in the APAC, WestPac, EMEA, North American regions. And additionally, we're a platinum solutions partner with Atlassian. And essentially, to put it succinctly, or hopefully succinctly, platinum solutions partners have a deep understanding of Atlassian's products, the ecosystem, and as well as a lot of experience implementing and customizing these products for our clients. And so this means that we provide a series of services as well. And we'll just go over these very briefly, but in the realm of consulting, our consultant services span the entire suite of the Atlassian tools. We cater to organizations of all shapes and sizes and industries, and we're 100% dedicated to the Atlassian ecosystem. In the realm of training, just to go over a couple of these, we provide extensive training programs as well as free content like the webinar you're consuming right now. And then we also offer, in the realm of paid courses, we have Jira boot camps, Jira software, Jira service management boot camps, Confluence boot camps, and Jira Line boot camp actually as well. And these are all specialized classes geared towards Jira admins specifically. And then we also have Atlassian user academies, which are tailored to everyday users. So a lot going on in the training realm. We pride ourselves in the training offering that we have, both in the free and paid realms. And then, as Joshua mentioned, we have custom development in-house. And essentially, our developers can create customized solutions spanning from app development to crafting unique user interfaces. And the short version that I like to say is if your solution doesn't exist yet, this is where we can help and ultimately make your Atlassian products and stack what you want it to be based on your business needs. So enough about us. Let's jump into the agenda for today. But please, at the end, if you have any questions about who we are, what we do, or any of the services we provide, please don't hesitate to reach out to Joshua and myself. So for the agenda day, we want to cover what is Atlassian Intelligence, talk about just some pricing information very briefly. We want to demo Atlassian Intelligence and just AI capabilities in general within the ecosystem. Just briefly touch on current features and some things that are coming down the pipeline. And then Joshua is going to talk about Atlassian Intelligence as it pertains to custom solutions within the Atlassian ecosystem. We'll have a brief overview of webinars and events that are coming up, and then hopefully ample time at the end for Q&A. And as a reminder in the realm of Q&A, if you've got any questions, please hit the Q&A button within Zoom. It should be at the bottom of your screen, I believe, or maybe the top. And then drop your questions in and we'll tackle them at the end. And like I said, we like to leave at least 10 to 15 minutes if possible at the end to answer your questions. All right. So with any webinar that I do, I try to answer these two questions. What is the tool and how does it work? Or what is the feature and how does it work? And on a high level, Atlassian Intelligence helps teams accelerate work, increase efficiency, and then ideally it's enabling you to provide value faster using artificial intelligence. So for example, within Atlassian tools like Jira and Confluence, which is what I'll be demoing in today, you'll have the opportunity or ability to generate and transform content, summarize critical details. Let's say you've got pages and pages of content in Confluence and you need to consume that rather quickly. You can summarize or you can find the work that you need fast. Those are just three main things that you can do, but there's much, much more, and it's changing by the minute, just like artificial intelligence in our culture today, anyway. And so, to answer the question, or hopefully start to answer the question, how does it work? Atlassian Intelligence combines advanced language models developed by OpenAI with Atlassian's own AI technologies. And this includes something Atlassian refers to as the teamwork graph. And the teamwork graph is an understanding of your team's unique projects and workflows. And by leveraging the data and context within the Atlassian platform, it delivers a personalized native AI experience while respecting the privacy of your data. To that end, that's actually a segue into something that I want to talk about in an area that is of a concern. And I don't mean that in the sense that it's something you should be concerned about, but it is something that consumers of this product have a lot of questions around, and that is in the realm of technology and data security. And so we want to answer some of the more prevalent questions that we hear more often than not. I will say that Atlassian Intelligence is opt-in only. And what I mean by that is you have to be an Atlassian org admin, or in other words, the highest level of permissions within the stack to intentionally flip on Atlassian Intelligence. You can also switch on Atlassian Intelligence features on a tool by tool basis. So, for example, let's say your service desk agents need AI capabilities, but your day-to-day developers don't within Jira. You're able to toggle on Atlassian Intelligence for Jira Service Management users, but leave it off for Jira, or leave it on for Confluence users and leave it off for Jira Service Management. So again, product by product, opt-in only. You can flag it off and on, and I'll show you guys that in a few here. Inputs aren't stored. This is something that I want to stress. That means none of the inputs or outputs from AI are stored or used by Atlassian or their partners to train their models. So inputs and outputs in this case, as I'm sure you can surmise, refer to the data that users are plugging into Atlassian products, and then which is in turn analyzed by Atlassian Intelligence. It's not stored. It respects data permissions. I'm sorry, it respects permissions and data residency rather. And so, for example, Atlassian Intelligence is going to respect whether you have access to Jira work items you're searching for example. So Atlassian Intelligence is not going to all of a sudden pull up all the sensitive HR data that lives in a contained or self-contained HR Jira project, for example, and allow you to see everything. It does respect native permissions within Jira that are already in place. And then all of the data is processed and transmitted in accordance with Atlassian's privacy policy, data processing addendum, and GDPR commitment. It's not currently HIPAA compliant. However, it is SOC 2 and ISO supported. And so that's something to just keep in mind as you're considering these features. And then lastly, it leverages OpenAI. So Atlassian Intelligence does currently leverage large language models from OpenAI. Each data request, however, I want to stress this, is sent to OpenAI individually over an SSL encrypted service to process and send back to Atlassian. So again, just to punctuate this, Atlassian is taking your data, your security, data security very seriously and how it handles the information within the tool set. And this pricing information is readily available online. This is actually a screenshot directly from Atlassian's site, but just wanted to draw your attention to just pricing, just ever so briefly. But one of the main things I want to highlight, and this is something we get asked about a lot, is that Atlassian Intelligence is offered only on cloud as of right now, and it's only available currently for premium and enterprise editions only. So something to keep in mind there. Usage limits are also in place. So the short version is if you abuse it, you lose it in the realm of usage. Um, if there's a disproportional use of Atlassian Intelligence by a user, they'll receive an error message stating that they've exceeded their usage limit. You may have already ran into this if you're a ChatGPT user or if you're using the free version. Very similar message. On the more extreme side, if there's a more egregious misuse of AI detected, Atlassian Intelligence will be deactivated for your whole site, and AI features will no longer be available. So an admin will be required if, God forbid, that you go down that road, an admin's required to contact Atlassian support to have Atlassian Intelligence activated again. So again, don't abuse it or you might lose it. And I would just say stay inside the confines of Atlassian's acceptable use policy. I think I've belabored that point enough. All right, so let's go into some just quick demonstrations of Atlassian Intelligence within the tools. And so we're going to look at a few of the more prominent features, or what at least I perceive to be the more prominent features that I see folks and clients using. I use myself day to day. But let's jump into actually just showing you very quickly how to flip on Atlassian Intelligence within your environment if you're an org admin and if it's available to you based on the licensing criteria that I shared earlier. And so let's go into our settings cog up here. And then I'm just going to jump out to user management just because it gets me to the admin settings. And we go to settings up here at the top. And then at the bottom right now, and again, this is changing by the minute, so this could be changing, even by the next month when we do this webinar. But here you can see, just like I mentioned, that we have Atlassian Intelligence enabled for Confluence and Jira here. I can remove that at any time. I can also select additional apps at my disposal. For example, I've got Compass here, and I could turn on AI for that, but I don't have it presently turned on. So just wanted to show you where you actually toggle that on. Again, you have to be. And so sorry, I just accidentally muted myself. So apologies there. I think I'm back. So let me close this tab and let's jump into our Jira project here. So here we have a Jira project for a fictional business team and a Confluence space that we're going to be operating in for the demonstrations today. And this is the fictional marketing team that's conducting a marketing campaign for Atlassian Intelligence. And so let's take a look at a few of the things that I want to talk about today, which is Atlassian Intelligence's ability to create content based on a prompt, rephrase content, or restructure content. And we're going to look at an example of each within Jira and then later on within Confluence and a few extras. So with that, let's take a look at this Jira work item of campaign social media postings, rather brief summary, rather brief description. Let's say I want to expound upon this a little bit more and make this work item maybe arguably or inarguably more actionable. So if I hit enter, let's add a new line. And actually, let me highlight and then I'm going to click Atlassian Intelligence here. And this is where I can either make discern choices here, or I can type in something variable. So let's say, let's type in add some ideas for how to approach leveraging social media for a marketing campaign as a bulleted list. And I apologize in advance for my typing. I probably got a C plus in high school in my typing class. So you'll see that today multiple times over and over. So great. We have an actionable list, or maybe I would argue a more actionable list to carry out this work item. We could either replace the text that we just highlighted or insert below. So let's just insert it below and operate there. So this is great. In seconds, we have maybe some content that we'll want to review before we click save on this. But if we're happy with it, we can click save, and we've already got a much more robust description. We can rephrase the content that we've created. So I've got a comment down here that's a little crabby sounding. Hello, is anyone reading my comments? This is where I can click edit, highlight it, click the Atlassian Intelligence button, and I can improve writing. I can change the tone. I can make it shorter. I can fix spelling and grammar, but let's change the tone to more empathetic. That one's usually pretty funny. Hello, I truly hope someone is reading my comments. Sounds very friendly, very Ziggy calendar there. We can discard or we can insert it below, etc. And so that's one quick way that we can change that. We can also restructure content. So if I go back up to my description, let's say I want a numbered list here, or I want to uh, let's do this first. Let's say rearrange the tech or the bulleted items alphabetically based on the first character. Let's see what it does. Excellent. So we can again replace, and then let's say too that I would prefer a, actually, let's say I want, you could actually do this where you just click a numbered list, but if I'm lazy or if I'm just somebody relying on Atlassian Intelligence, I could even say make this a numbered list. And then again, you get the point. It's very easy to, and I don't know why it made it letters. I think it's because it's another layer down. Yeah, that's probably it. But you get the point. It's very easy to restructure content. You can do it all within a prompt. And so, in conclusion, we have a much more operable task for our team. It's much more detailed than what we started with, and it's done all in a matter of seconds using the power of Atlassian Intelligence. So let's talk about some extra features. This is one that I get excited about as a Jira admin and as somebody that's often building projects for clients based on requirements. And it's the ability to create automation rules via Atlassian Intelligence prompt or using AI. So I'm going to go into the project settings, and then I'm going to go to automation. And if you've got Atlassian Intelligence enabled, you have the ability to click this Create with AI button here. So a lot going on over in these menus. Let's create a rule that a project manager would probably like to have within Jira. So let's say when all subtasks, and this is one that we see all the time. This is a pretty standard use case, are completed, add a comment to the parent, letting the assignee know. Let's see what that does and just hit enter. Give it a minute to think. Nice. So when a work item is transitioned to done, subtask max equals done, all subtasks completed, comment on work item. That's not bad. Let's try an even more difficult one. Let's go back to our template here and let's give it some more particular parameters. When a work item of marketing asset is created and social media is in the summary, add the social media label and create a subtask under the work item with target influencers in the summary. That is quite the tall order there. Let's see what it does. This might take a little bit longer to think. Okay, so not bad. So we've got our trigger, we've got our issue type or work item now referred to as marketing asset called out as a condition. Summary contains social media. It even adds the label of social media, and it's not able to put in the summary that I had asked it to, but it saved me a bunch of time of having to go hunt and peck and find the trigger, hunt and peck and find the conditions. And I think this is okay. Ultimately, I think we know as a society, as we're adopting AI tools, we know maybe it's not going to do everything for us, but it maybe gets us 90% there. And that's how I view this feature set in a lot of ways. It saves us time. Okay, and one thing that I'm going to show you that I think is also pretty cool, and this is maybe more geared towards the day-to-day user within the tool sets, is the ability to search for work items via AI. And what's really nice, you can see within our search or view all issues within the project, we can find work. I'm sorry, not even within the project, within all of our projects, we can type in this AI prompt. And let's say, search for all issues assigned to me, and that also have the word webinar in the summary. See what it does. And so very quickly, it pulls in all of the work items that have webinar in the summary, as you can see in all of these, and they're all assigned to me. Great. Something also is really nice about Atlassian Intelligence is that you don't have to know Jira query language, which is down here. But if you're trying to learn it, needed for building automation rules or other aspects within the tool set from an admin standpoint, it allows you to see what the query should be. And so that's really neat. It's kind of almost a teaching tool in that regard. Something that's very elusive to me, especially when I was learning Jira firsthand, was anything that's date oriented. Within the next 30 days, the next few months, those kinds of operators in JQL can be really confusing and elusive. And so something that is super helpful is maybe a query like this. All issues assigned to me and that were created in the last month. Let's see what that does. I hit enter, and then boom, there's the list. All these created within the last month. You don't have to worry about the start of month, where I put my parentheses, whether it's a -1, a +1, all those things that, again, were really confusing to me when I was learning Jira starting out. And so, again, really powerful search capability within the Atlassian Intelligence kind of tool set here. So as promised, let's go ahead and jump to Confluence here. And again, in the theme of our marketing team, this is our fictional marketing team, the space that they're working in to kind of launch this campaign. And like what you saw in Jira, I want to highlight the capability of creating content based on prompt, rephrasing content, or restructuring content. So let's take a look at one of these pages here. So let's look at creating content based on a prompt. So if let's say, I know I just mentioned this is a marketing space, but let's pretend I'm a development team and I'm about to jump into Agile Scrum ceremonies. I'm a Scrum Master. I'm deliberating with other Scrum Masters. What might be helpful to have as an outline for Scrum ceremonies. So I'm going to create a new page up here at the top, click the plus sign, click page. And then if I click down here, I can type \, and then immediately alphabetically Atlassian Intelligence is the first option here. I click Atlassian Intelligence, and let's do this. I can just type, or maybe I can just type create an outline for Scrum ceremonies. Let's just see what it does with that. Nice. So again, fictionally, I'm about to go into a meeting. I've got a nice outline that I'm armed with to kick off discussions. Obviously, just like with anything in AI, I would want to review this probably before I go and run with it, but I can click insert. It's immediately in the page, and I can give it a title. and I'm off to the races by clicking publish. I can choose my access, and here it is. So in seconds, I've got an outline that I can take and run with. Going back to being a marketing team, let's go to the mobile first experience page. And I have the ability to rephrase content. So let's say this box here sounds a little doom and gloom. The company has been losing customers over the past 3 years, particularly in the 18 to 35 age bracket. This is where I can highlight the text after I click edit. I can click improve writing, and this is maybe where it rewords it for me, or I can refine. This is where I can add polish. That's a new one I haven't seen yet, actually. I can make it longer, shorter, or I can change the tone. Maybe I want to be more empathetic. And you can see that the language is much more empathetic, maybe a little less doom and gloom, a little bit more feeling. And again, I've got the option, just like in Jira that you saw earlier, where I can replace, insert it below, further refine it, etc. Let's create a new page. And again, we're still a marketing team at this point. And let me actually click close on this. And let's click a page. Let's say we want to maybe develop a grassroots marketing campaign. So I click my backslash or my forward slash rather, I can hit enter on Atlassian Intelligence, and I can say provide steps to develop a grassroots marketing campaign. Enter, let's see what it does. Again, within seconds, I've got actionable steps that I can take. Insert grassroots marketing campaign, and then publish. Very, very quickly, I've got something that I can take and run with. In the realm of restructuring content, so I have this notes page. Notes of mine are totally chicken scratch, barely legible. But let's say I have another follow-up meeting really quickly where I need to take action on some of the notes that I've taken. A lot of my job is listening to clients. Maybe AI bots aren't turned on to take notes, and I still have to take notes. Sometimes my notes end up looking like this. So I click edit, and what I can do is highlight all of this text. And this is a feature that I think is really, really neat. I can click improve writing. It can kind of clean up my notes for me if need be, or it'll take an attempt. If I click refine, I've got additional options to change the tone, summarize the writing, make it longer, shorter, etc. I can ask it to pull out action items. Let's see what it does here. Ooh, interesting. Kind of does a job there where we can look at additional um, options there, or maybe you can find action items. If I click on, let me discard here and start a new line. So it made an attempt there. Let me go to the bottom here and click this again, or forward slash Atlassian Intelligence. And there's actually a find action items action that you can take as well. So maybe the prompt didn't work exactly I wanted to. You can also insert action items here, edit them as needed, and then you've got not only meeting notes, but action items that you can pull out rather easily. Really cool feature. Okay, and then lastly, I want to show you the ability to summarize content. And so if I go back to, let's go to this release readiness page, for example. If I click edit, I can actually select all the content or just select even a portion of it. Let me just select maybe the first few boxes here. And you can improve writing here. Again, maybe I want to improve my writing there, but I can also click refine and then summarize the writing. And this could maybe give you a nice summary to add or an introduction to the top of a Confluence page. It gives you a really succinct summary of what's going on here. If I discard this, another summarize capability just to be aware of. If I close this page, I'm out of editing now. On the bottom right, you also have the ability to summarize pages that are already published. So let's say I'm an executive, I haven't been quite up to snuff, or have been able to attend all these meetings for somebody that I'm a vendor that I'm onboarding, for example. But there's an amalgamation of meeting notes. I can click summarize, and then I have a very quick, succinct idea of what is published here. So a lot of great capabilities. All right, so let's go back to our main presentation here, and I'm going to pitch it over to Joshua very shortly. Just to kind of punctuate what I showed you here, there is a lot coming down the pipeline uh, for Atlassian tools. You can see what's currently available today within Jira and Confluence. I will say every month that I do this webinar, there's something new added or something new changed to Atlassian's documentation. And ultimately, everything that's published here within our presentation is also out here for your consumption within the Atlassian documentation. And so you can see everything that's presently available within Jira and Confluence. And there are also a ton of features to be aware of. We won't go into any of these or many of these today, but there's a ton of features available within Jira Service Management, Jira Product Discovery, Trello, Bitbucket, and so on. And so keep your eyes on Atlassian. In short, keep your eyes on Atlassian documentation. It's changing by the minute, and ultimately, so is the feature set within the tools. All right. So, as promised, I want to hand it back over to Joshua, who's going to talk to us about the Atlassian Intelligence and Rovo capabilities within the ecosystem, kind of with the custom development spin on things. So, Joshua, feel free to take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is a little bit about Jira Service Management. So the first thing I want to call out is obviously like JSM is going to have projects in a very similar structure to any other projects you might have in Jira. See all the same features there in terms of all the things that Sam walked through and the additional features you have in Jira. I also wanted to just call out the fact that there's another AI feature that exists in JSM that is called virtual agent. So if you're looking into ways to help provide more self-service options for people going to a flow that you have set up in JSM or a JSM portal, the virtual agent tool allows you to basically create intent matching. So you're basically going to create like a list of known solutions or known ways of handling common questions. And the portal will then be able to use some AI behind the scenes to direct the user to those answers very quickly. So it'll either be able to just solve the problem for them if it can have like a really high degree of confidence that it knows how to do that based off of the intents that you give it, or it will try and find the solution in the knowledge base that you might have in Confluence and be able to provide knowledge base articles kind of based off of what the user is asking for. And then only if it can't find anything will it actually then go to kind of like first level of support. So just another thing to be aware of if you're looking at JSM. And then there are going to be some other things we'll talk about here in a second that will also play into the story with JSM. But I just wanted to point this out before moving on a little bit into some of the additional things around AI in Atlassian. So I've got this slide here, kind of just a beyond work management as a statement. Really, the thing I'm calling out here is that we've been looking at how the AI tooling can enhance what we're doing day to day in Jira and in Confluence, kind of just in the Atlassian products that we're used to utilizing day to day. But the inclusion of AI tooling inside of the Atlassian Cloud platform does a whole lot more than just add some features into creating work items and managing work items and knowledge bases. It's giving us a way to for the data that really matters to our business. So we're talking about where work is being tracked, where knowledge is being stored. For all of that data, we are adding the power of AI tools on top of it. So as AI tooling becomes this thing that you're trying to implement in basically every organization out there, right? We've all seen organizations with top-down initiatives of let's get AI tooling across the entire organization. How do we actually accomplish that? First of all, in a way that has real return on investment that isn't going to break the bank in order to do that so that we actually get some of that return on the investment and that we can actually get access to all of the data that really matters. And a lot of that data for a lot of our businesses lives in the Atlassian platform. because it's where we track our work and store our knowledge in lots of cases. So I want to show a couple diagrams here of kind of the old way and the with Atlassian Intelligence way of creating that value. So let's say you get this top-down initiative. If I need to have AI across the entire platform, all of our data, we need to have the AI features really accelerating our workflows. Well, on the left side, you're going to see what I'm calling like the old way, which is that you would have to actually build a whole lot of things from the ground up in order to support that functionality. So first of all, you have to have a place to store the data between all of your applications. So if you look at this diagram, we've got the section with all of the Atlassian apps. We've got the section on the right, then in the green, of any custom apps or other tools that you might have. So most organizations aren't going to have only Atlassian data. You have Atlassian tools. You're going to have in-house custom tools that are built. Maybe you also have some other SaaS product that's also storing data. Maybe you're managing, an HR portal and some other SaaS product, and that's also important data. Well, you're going to end up having to create some place to store all of that data in the same place if you want to really have the AI working on top of it. So having the power of what Atlassian is doing with the teamwork graph and kind of understanding the connectivity between all of the different areas of your data, basically being able to say, okay, I have this project and I have this Confluence space, and I kind of understand the context of both. And so I can play between them along with the context of, some other tool outside of the environment, and then create an inference based off of that. If you want to have that type of AI tooling and be able to really get that power out of it, we'd have to create our own place to store that data. We then have to create our own way to actually like interact with that, right? So we don't have the integration that we have with Atlassian Intelligence, where we can just go directly in the creation screen of a work item and actually give it prompts that way, because we aren't going to be using it directly in. And then we also have to rely on either having some like open source AI model running inside of our organization, or having our own deal with OpenAI that we would have to then manage and maintain, and our own idea of security and our own security mindset that then we also have to maintain and also have to take the responsibility for. So this is kind of like the old way, where you can imagine this gray box in the middle, which is all the things that you'd have to build as an organization to accomplish the thing that you're seeing in those demos that Sam just showed. Could even be 2 or 3 entire teams of people, and that's going to become very costly and very time consuming. And the result is still not going to have direct integration between the AI tooling and the actual place where the data is being stored and created. So then on the right side, what we see is we've taken that gray box away. We don't actually need to build anything else out of the box. We can just utilize Atlassian Intelligence, and it now has access to all of our data and all of our Atlassian products. And we have that direct integration. Now there is one thing here, as you can see this, but what about the external data? And there are no lines coming from this green box anymore. So what if you want to have, you get this top-down mandated, we need AI across the board. Well, having just AI in only Jira and Confluence, maybe that's not actually enough. Maybe you have this other really important tool that's this homegrown, long-lived, custom-developed tool that you have in-house. And if you don't have AI tooling on top of that tool as well, you really haven't got the complete picture. So how do we get there, and how does Atlassian Intelligence really help us get there? And that takes us one step further, which is to introduce something called Forge. So if you have not heard the word Forge before, I'm not going to go super in depth with it because it's beyond the scope of our webinar, but this is essentially the custom development framework for Atlassian Cloud. So when you talk about building add-ons, building plugins, building anything custom, or changing the way that it appears or interacts with the UI of the platform, building a marketplace add-on. So those marketplace add-ons that you might have as part of your instance are more and more these days being built with Forge, and Forge is that development platform for building all of these things. Like I said, I don't have time to get super far in depth with it, but I have a lot I can say about Forge, and we actually have an entire 3 to 4 day curriculum around Forge specifically. So we have courses that you can actually go and find, and we have public classes where you can learn all you need to know about how to develop things in Forge. The important thing here is that Forge provides a way for us to extend the Atlassian platform. And as we extend the Atlassian platform, we're able to then integrate with that external data. So I have my diagram here with all of my Atlassian tools. Atlassian Analytics is in here. Atlassian Intelligence is still part of the equation, of course. And Atlassian Intelligence has kind of a way to to go through the whole process and access everything that we need to have access to from our Atlassian products. And now we're utilizing Forge to also bring in the data from our external sources. So we're basically supplementing our Atlassian data with the data coming from other places in the environment. And as Atlassian is working on all of their extensibility on the platform, we're seeing more and more of this arrive and kind of emerge. There are actually new features also coming around with the teamwork graph, like Sam was talking about, which is the way that the entire platform communicates between different products and different tools and different apps. We're going to be able to build our own connection points specifically for Rovo. We can use Forge to bring in custom data. We can even use Forge to create integrations with other tools. We can have like a two-way sync between those tools. And these are all things that we're doing today with our customers. And the result of doing this is that there's more accessibility to our data from the Atlassian Cloud platform. And that means that Atlassian Intelligence is available for all of that data. So what I want to do is show a bit of a real world example. So we created this tool that you see here in this screenshot. It's this UFO fleet manager. This was actually originally for vehicles, for like cars, for an auto manufacturer that wanted to manage all of the reservations for different vehicles that are being tested as they're being developed. So this is for kind of like their defect management processes where people are checking out vehicles and testing basically if they function correctly. And if they find defects in those vehicles, they need to report on those. And this tool is the way to reserve the vehicles to actually go and test them. And we created this platform for them, this tool that is a fully customized, from the ground up tool. It's custom developed. This interface is, as you see, showing up in the apps dropdown of Jira, but it is a custom developed tool that we actually then eventually deployed outside of Atlassian entirely in terms of the UI, right? You don't have to have this bar on the top. But what was really cool about this is that all of the data that is driving this is actually managed by the Atlassian platform. So we're using JSM assets in order to manage all of the vehicles. We're using JSM requests to manage requests for reservations. But the actual user who is utilizing this tool never knew they were using Atlassian products. They were just using the fleet manager. But the data can then be managed by an Atlassian admin team, right? Because all this data is actually, not like some obscure database. It is Jira tickets or JSM requests. It's assets, and those things can be managed by our Jira admins now. What that also means is that we can use AI to search and summarize and automate interactions that are happening on this tool. So now we can integrate AI to the entire process of this fleet management tool because of the fact that we have accessibility in our Atlassian tooling of that data. So this is just one example of where we have, in a real environment for a real customer, built an application on top of Atlassian Cloud as a platform, and then that gives us access to the AI value that we see out of Atlassian Intelligence in order to have some, AI tooling on top of that data without having to spend the time and money it costs to create the custom infrastructure you need to support that AI tooling. So one more thing that comes up is this what about Rovo question. And as I'm talking about these things, you may have been, if you've even been a little bit around the Atlassian world, you will have heard of Rovo. Rovo is another AI tool that exists in Atlassian Cloud, and perhaps one of the more kind of big features to come for Atlassian, a big push they're making to really get AI across the board for everything. Rovo is a separate product from Atlassian Intelligence, but they both have the same underlying functionality in terms of how they interact with OpenAI and with different LLMs inside of Atlassian's servers. And essentially, Rovo intends to basically fill in a lot of the gaps and also take it one step further, where rather than just getting access to Atlassian Intelligence in line with like text on your screen, we're going to have things like more of a chatbot experience, or we can integrate AI into automations for Jira, or we can actually create full-scale applications that directly integrate with Atlassian Intelligence and with AI and with Rovo through that Forge development platform I was talking about before. And like I mentioned before, there's a lot you can talk about here, and we are only going to scratch the surface. There are other webinars that I've given specifically around Rovo. So if you want to see more about Rovo, there are going to be some recordings of those you can find on our YouTube page. If you just go on Valiantys YouTube and search for Rovo, or even just scroll and basically look for my face, you'll be able to find some webinars and workshops that I've done around Rovo, where we dig a little bit deeper and kind of show how it works behind the scenes. That's going to be a key part of kind of integrating all of those things together. I do want to show one example just to give you a bit of a teaser of how Rovo is going to function. So if I go into this JSM project, I don't actually need to be looking at this project for this to work, but just want to show you the data that's behind this. If I hit this Rovo chat button, this is pulling up my Rovo interface. And like I said, I won't spend too much time on all of the pieces of this, but what we do have access to is this agents list. And an agent, so this HR Assistant V2 is a Rovo agent. This is basically a way that I've created almost like a new teammate or a persona on top of AI. It's like an AI assistant for HR specifically in this case. So I've actually got some videos out there that you can go find where I walk through exactly how I built this exact agent, and you can go find those and see how it was constructed. But what it's going to allow me to do is, let's say I want to provide my users with a way to create vacation requests or interact with data on their environment for HR without having to go chat with the HR team directly. So from the HR Assistant V2 here, I can say, can you help me create a vacation request? And in this kind of chatbot interface, it's now going to say, happy to help, give me some dates. Let's say I want to do, let's see, September 9th to September 15th. There we go. And let's say that that's when I want to make my vacation request for. It's going to analyze my response and kind of give me a confirmation that I can make of, hey, this is the dates. Do you want to confirm this? Has a button. I can hit confirm. And whenever I do hit confirm, it's actually going and it's going to create a vacation request where it has knowledge of my Confluence pages where I keep track of the process for creating a vacation request. It actually understands our policies around vacation requests, and it will use the knowledge of those things to create a new request on the JSM portal where it'll be able to then show up as a part of our JSM workflow. So here it is right here. There's a new request from those dates, and we can basically set it up to do whatever we need to in that space where it's able to allow the user to create this vacation request without ever having to talk to anyone from HR and use their time for that, but also without even having to go reference the documentation directly, because the assistant here understands the way that we create vacation requests and can do that for me. That's just a bit of a teaser for Rovo. I just wanted to show you a little bit around that. This additional kind of slide of some things you can do with Rovo. And basically Rovo, like one of the ways we can interact with it is in this chat interface like you saw here. But Rovo kind of goes further even, and you can integrate Rovo into automations directly, where like let's say you use Atlassian Intelligence like Sam showed to build an automation. And when you create that automation, you're going to want to have AI in the process of the automation. So you create an issue and you want it to then scan something and give you a response. Well, you can do that with Rovo, and Rovo becomes part of your automations in a way that we've got some additional value on top of the way that we can interact with our tooling. So like I said, go find our webinars around Rovo specifically if you want to see more about that, or reach out to us and we'll be happy to talk about it. It's a lot that can be done with Atlassian Intelligence and Rovo and kind of all these tools that Atlassian is providing. All right, so that's going to get us to the end of our content here. I'll pass it back to Sam to kind of close us out a bit.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. That was awesome. So just want to plug some upcoming content, webinar classes that we have coming on the pipeline. All of this is available on our training site, which I believe we've shared a link to in our chat. Basically, anything that you see with the sign up button is free. Anything with buy tickets, obviously not. And so you can see the preponderance of what you're looking at even right now is free content. Can't encourage you enough to take advantage of that. We've got a lot of talented folks within the organization and a lot of different spheres of the ecosystem sharing just free, super helpful stuff. So please take advantage of what we have out there. Also want to take a second to highlight my contact information is here as well as Joshua's, and also links, QR codes out to our LinkedIn pages. We'd love to hear from you after the webinar. If you have any questions about anything that we have showed or anything outside of what we showed, maybe art of the possible questions, etc., please don't hesitate to reach out to us directly. We'd love to hear from you. would love to network, etc. And so with that, I would like to, with the last 11 minutes, do some Q&A. So feel free to plug in questions if you haven't already, and we can jump into some of these. So the first question we have, I'll read it out here. Can Atlassian AI access all the projects we have on a site? The last time we made a request to list all the projects and their leads, we got an error message. Yeah, great question. So, kind of a multifaceted answer, and I don't want to move away from AI just too much here, but I will say natively within the tool, you can view all the projects and leads. I will say if you're in the project view, you can click on more projects in the new UI and then view all projects. And that allows you actually outside of AI to look at all the projects within your instance, and their project leads are there by default, usually a few columns over. If you're a Jira admin, you also have the option of the top right corner to click the settings icon, go to projects, and then it's going to show you all of the projects in your instance. The former method is going to respect project permissions. The latter method is you've got the God mode powers and are able to see all of it. I will say that Rovo and Atlassian Intelligence, if flipped on for the product, can access the work items. And so if you're searching just like we did before, it's going to query all that information. But like I said, it's going to respect the permissions within the instance that you have if you're not a admin.
Yeah, this is where the difference between Atlassian Intelligence and Rovo comes in a little bit. Where if you want to access everything across the entire environment from a single prompt or a single query, you're going to want to use Rovo to do that. Uh, Atlassian Intelligence is a kind of just included across the board type of tool where in line as you're typing in content, it's able to give you some generative AI tooling. Rovo has direct access to the teamwork graph, which essentially is where you're able to see the connections between all of the projects, all of the parts of the environment, all the Confluence pages and spaces, at least that the user making the query has access to. And so if you wanted to have a scenario where you're creating some AI tooling on top of an understanding of every project, then you would use Rovo for that use case.
Yeah. And then I believe, Joshua, this one might be for you, but we have a question. As admins, can we restrict who creates agents? I'm assuming that this question's in regards to Rovo agents.
Yeah, this is around Rovo agents, and this is a feature that as of right now is not in GA. So as of right now, the answer is no. But in the very, very near future, we will see a feature come out where we are able to restrict the creation and maintenance of agents. So it is a thing that is not only on the roadmap, but as I understand it, very close to done in terms of being able to control the who can and cannot create and view Rovo agents.
Excellent. We've got a question here. Sorry if this was mentioned, but will this recording be made available after the call? Yes, absolutely. I'm really glad you mentioned that. So all of our webinars, unless Joshua and I just completely botch them live, end up getting uploaded to YouTube. And so please visit our YouTube channel for this content. Is Atlassian AI native? In other words, created by Atlassian, or is it using another kind of AI, whether it be ChatGPT, etc.?
Yeah, this is where that combination of the different models that are being used behind the scenes is kind of the answer here. So it's yes and no, it's both. There are a lot of things being handled by Atlassian natively with open source models that they run on their servers. Last I checked, there were somewhere near like 7 different LLMs, large language models that are being used to manage Atlassian Intelligence. And the basically the context of like conversations you have with Rovo or the context of all your data is being handled by Atlassian's open source kind of like versions of the models. And a lot of the actual responses and inferences being made are being done by a kind of GPT model that's being done by OpenAI. So that's where they keep a lot of the context in-house, and then they send kind of very specific messages out to OpenAI through their contract with OpenAI to get the answers for a lot of the things that they're looking for.
Excellent. And I think we had a follow-up comment maybe to that previous question of trying to query projects, if I'm following this one correctly. It's an interesting use case. I would encourage you maybe to reach out to Joshua and I after, and so we can maybe try to understand what you were doing or trying to do with the tools to, I think, pull those project leads and projects within Confluence. We'd
Yeah, my
love to,
assumption is that the
yeah.
goal here is to create a document where just with AI, you can give it a prompt and it'll build out a document with all of the projects and their leads. And that's something that would be handled pretty readily by Rovo, where you
Mhm.
would basically be able to go into a Rovo agent and give that agent access to, it's probably something that you could build in, 5 or 10 minutes, build a Rovo agent that has access to all of the projects and has the ability to create a Confluence space. It actually, you can give a Rovo agent the ability to create a page in Confluence, and then you would ask it in chat, hey, make a page with all this information. So if that's something that you're looking to do, reach out to us and we can kind of walk you through that process, or go find some of the content we have around Rovo. But Rovo is going to just be able to handle more of those widespread, having context of all the projects type of questions because of the fact that it has a different tooling set behind it and has more processing power behind it. So it's able to actually run the type of processing that you need to see every project all at once and kind of crawl through the things that way. Where Atlassian Intelligence is a little bit more narrowed in on the context of what you're actually creating in that moment.
Mhm. Yeah, great questions, guys. We really appreciate the level of engagement here. I don't see any further questions. But that being stated, like I said earlier, don't consider this a closed conversation. Please feel free to take down our email addresses here, link up with us on LinkedIn. We'd love to continue the conversation if you guys have any other questions about Atlassian Intelligence, Rovo, and anything AI within the ecosystem. All right. Well, with that, then, if there are no more questions, we can go ahead and wrap for the day. From the whole team here at Valiantys, I sincerely thank you for your attention during this time. We encourage you to reach out to us again on LinkedIn or via email, and would love to have further dialogue with you. Thank you again for your attention, and hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks, everybody.